This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Let's talk a little Inter-Miami. Over the weekend, it was ugly on Saturday as they lose 4-1. Michelle Kaufman does an excellent job of covering Inter-Miami on a daily basis for the Miami Herald. Let's bring her aboard. Michelle, good afternoon.
Hello, how are you? Sorry I was late. It's a busy time with Inter Miami and Gold Cup and some other stuff. So I'm going up to Fort Lauderdale up and down every day.
Aren't you part Cuban?
Huh?
Aren't you part Cuban?
Yes, I am. Fully Cuban. Both of my parents, Cuban Jewish.
Okay. All right. So,
We're Cubans.
Not the Jewish part, but the Cuban part, you're supposed to be late. So,
Right, that's true.
Cuban
Cuban time. Yes.
Yeah, it's Cuban
12
time.
o'clock means 12:07, 12:08, somewhere around there. Somewhere around noon.
My wife was late to her own wedding. I mean, it's just Cubans will be late to their own funerals. It's just it's kind of the way we roll, man. It's just who we are.
That's right. We're not so big about rules. We're not so big about rules.
No, we're not big on that. All right, Michelle. Saturday was ugly, and I know they're kind of depleted. They've had several injuries. This is, to get too deep into the team right now, it's not worth it at this point. But what I start thinking when I'm sitting there, and you wrote an article about this, and I've talked about it on the show, they need to fix this because it's going to be embarrassing for Adidas, for Nike, for the MLS, and for the Moss brothers if Messi gets here and they just play a couple of regular season games, and then that's it. And he's watching the playoffs with the rest of us. And that'll be catastrophic for all these parties involved if they don't get to showcase Messi in the playoffs. And it's just looking like it's almost impossible to ask Messi to get here and turn this entire thing around and put him into the playoffs.
I agree. I mean, it's going to be the word I used today in my story today is a monumental task. Even with they have him and Busquets now, and they're going to have a new coach, any day now. But you're asking, the team they're in dead last. They have 15 points. And another reporter and I were doing some calculations. And, you're probably going to need minimum 40, 45 points, to be on the edge of making the playoffs. So they've got 15 points off 18 games. They've got to get, they have to get 30 plus points over the next 16 games. They've got to get results. They've got to start getting results. I believe they may be the only team. I have to look at the standings. They have no ties the entire season. I don't think they've had one tie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no.
I think they have no ties.
Austin has 4 ties, and you're playing them this week, and that's one of the reasons why they have more points than you. They have another win. They have another win or two more than you, but they also have the 4 ties, which
they have ties, and most of the teams have ties. Inter Miami's like the only one or one of the only ones that has no ties the entire season. 18 games. They played 18 games, so they're in bad shape. They're in really bad shape right now, and you have to believe that the morale. I mean, first of all, the fact that these guys are playing not knowing what their future is. You're talking about everyone out there is talking about this guy's coming, that guy's coming, and so is coming. But that means someone's leaving, If people are coming, that means people are also going to be leaving. So all of these guys that are on that team now are kind of walking on eggshells, wondering, what is their future going to be? I just think it's a team that at the moment, the entire gamble is on when Messi arrives and going forward. It just feels like everything to this point has just been like placeholders for the real plan, which was the Messi, second half of the season. The first half of the season has been really a struggle. First with Phil, a limited roster. They did not invest money in the first half of the season because they were saving it all for what's coming now. So it's been a limited roster, and to begin with, and then they had the injuries, very bad injuries, like almost
I don't know.
not season ending, but all the way maybe till September, losing Gregory right away, your captain, losing Mota like 2 games after that, Coco Jean now having surgery. You've got 3 guys who has surgery, three midfielders surgery. This last game, they were very depleted. They were missing Yedlin, who's on with the Gold Cup with US. They were missing Kamal Miller, who's in the Gold Cup with Canada. They were missing Sergei Kristov, who's having visa issues. He went back to Ukraine to play some friendlies over the international break, and there's visa situations going on. So, you had 3 of your 4 starting back out, and they played with a roster that had eight academy products, 4 of them starting. Now, this is nothing against those young guys. Those young guys are young talents, whatever, but they are, they're young players. They're not seasoned veteran players, and you had 4 of them in the starting lineup and 8 on the roster. So, they're going to bring Messi into a team. I mean, I'm assuming that he's been doing the research and knows what he's getting into, but he's coming onto a team for the first time in his life, I'm sure, that he's coming into a last place team. The teams he has played on, let's count them: Barcelona, PSG, Argentine national team. Okay. All 3 of those teams that he's played on his entire career are
Elite.
here.
Yeah.
Elite of the elite. And all of his teammates for all of those years have been elite of the elite. He is now coming to a team that is in a building phase in MLS, in last place, dead last. And this is the team that he's coming to. So it's a very big project, even with 1 or 2 or 3 of his former European teammates coming over, which it could end up being that they're going to have, Jordi Alba also, or some other, 1 or 2 other people. There could be as many as 4, players with some big pedigrees coming in. But even with that, if you dug a hole already that's so deep, it's going to be really hard. It's not like Messi's going to come in and just win
I know.
every game. He's going to have to get accustomed to the style of play over here. Wayne Rooney mentioned it the other day. Gonzalo Higuain has mentioned it last year. It takes a while for these guys who come from Europe to get acclimated to the style of play, because the skill level is not, with some of the players, don't have the skill level and technique that players are used to in Europe. They rely on physicality and speed. They're going to be knocking him around. They're going to be knocking little Messi around. And, yes, he will be protected, I'm sure, some by the refs and all that. But if players don't have the particular skill to deal with Messi, they're going to use other measures. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm
So
with you.
he's going to have to get.
See, the thing is, I follow this league, and now, 25 years ago, we would say, he's coming over, he's going to dominate. The problem is, we've watched the Chicharritos and the Wayne Rooneys, and we've watched guys like come here, Higuain, and actually struggle. We have seen name players that are stars all over the place, and then they come here and they struggle, and some of them don't even get it.
And they get frustrated. They get struggle. They struggle. 2, they get frustrated. And then they start this with their teammates, and then starts problems in the locker room. It's not.
It's what Rooney said.
It's not like a Lego set that you just plug. You're not just going to be able to just plug him in and everything is going to light up and the whole team is going to be winning every game. That is not. Anybody who thinks that is extremely naive, very, very naive, and has not been following this league.
And so Lionel is joining a Messi. That's what's going to end up happening. And so this is, what I'd be interested if you actually can reach people in like Adidas and Apple and all that, and talk to them. So what if Messi doesn't make the playoffs? I mean, they've got to be freaking out about that right now. You know what I mean? And so here's the other thing. Neville didn't, in my eyes, he did not deserve to get fired. His team was
Nope,
not
I don't
that
think so
good.
either. No.
So did they fire him because they weren't satisfied, or did they fire him because they knew the Messi move was coming and you're going to bring a Messi coach, not a guy that's here already that Messi may not want to play with? Messi's going to want to pick his own coach, that kind of stuff. So how far does that Messi power go? Because if you're giving him all this money and all these huge entities are also teaming up with him, I can imagine that he's going to have a lot of more influence in so many other things. So is Tata Marino or whoever gets hired, is he getting hired because that's the guy that Messi approves? Or is the new coach getting hired because they truly did not like Neville and thought he was not the guy? What do
I
you
think, yeah, my educated gut feeling, what I would say is that this is Messi's team now. This is like LeBron. This is Messi's team, okay? He's not the owner, but he does have equity in the team now as well when his playing days are over. Part of
right,
his deal, part of the 130 to 150 million dollar total package deal is the equity in the team when he's done with his playing days. So he is in essence going to be, part owner of this team once he stops playing. He's absolutely going to have influence. There's no question he's going to at least have to sign off on the
right,
coach. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that he made a condition. I'm not saying, and I don't know, but I'm not saying that he made a condition like I will only come if Tata Martino's the coach. I don't think they're that tight that it's that kind of thing. But if he wanted, you know, if they felt and he felt that a Latin American coach who's already coached him in Barcelona and Argentina, a coach who is from Argentina, a coach who won MLS in his second season with Atlanta United, with Joseph Martinez as the star of that team, a guy who has coached Bizarro with the Mexican national team. There are many, many boxes that Tata checks off, but the fact that he's from Argentina and has coached Messi on 2 occasions, I am sure that makes Messi more comfortable than coming into a team with Phil Neville, whom he doesn't know, and who would be the original regime that's here. And he would have to fit in. Messi would have to fit in to Phil's way of doing things and to Phil's regime, as opposed to Messi and a new coach come in together and just start a whole new chapter, with Messi, with Busquets, with Tata, with whoever else comes, a whole new, it'll be like, you know, Jorge Mas said that one of the quotes that he said in the and the thing that I did with him the other day was, that forever it's going to be MLS history and US soccer history is going to be known as before Messi and after Messi. That when we talk about the history of US soccer, this is a seminal moment. He said, the seminal moment in US soccer is the arrival of Messi. And it's the same with this club. I mean, this club is going to be pre-Messi, post-Messi. He's not just one player. He's a player that's going to wield so much influence. Like you said, I mean, Apple is relying on it. Adidas is relying on it. Fanatics, I've heard, is in contract talks with him. Other companies as well. So, there is a lot riding on this deal. And Inter Miami needs to turn things around and they need to become a contender. They need to be in the playoff picture. And it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be difficult. So yeah, I think that Phil had no chance. Now I don't know if they had won a whole bunch of games. If they were
right.
on a big winning streak, I don't think they could have just fired Phil and said, "Well, sorry, you've been winning you have a winning record and you're in third place, but we just feel like it's time for a change." I don't think that would have happened. But considering where the team was and that they had lost 6 in a row, I think they felt like, let's clean house, let's bring in a new coach with Messi and start everybody new. And the fact that this new coach is probably going to be from Argentina and probably will have already coached Messi if it's who we think it is. I think that's all part of the grand plan.
One of our listeners, Frankie, is asking if Messi will be playing away games where the ground is turf, that he heard that he does not play on turf fields. Any truth to that?
That's a big question that a lot of people have, because obviously most of the top players around the world do not like turf. They hate it. In fact, they really hate turf. But here's what's going to come into play. Stadiums, for example, Atlanta is opening up. What I heard is, I think it's true, they're opening up the upper deck for the Inter Miami game up there. They are talking about selling upwards of 60,000 tickets for that game. Those tickets are to see Messi, and so what happens if Atlanta sells 60 or 65,000 seats for people to see Messi? Is Messi going to say, "I'm sorry, guys, I just don't play on turf"?
I
You
don't, I,
know,
I think
I
that
don't know. I don't. I don't
think
really.
that understanding would have already been talked about
I don't know
because
the answer to that question. I do know that when Messi comes, whenever he comes, and whenever he does talk to us for the first time, that will definitely be among the questions that will be asked in the press conference.
I
Will
think
you play on turf?
I think he
Huh?
will, because this is the final run of his career. He's going to get $500 million. He has to play on concrete if they ask him to play on concrete at this point in time. He's not what's there to save yourself for now at this point? You're playing, dude. You're committed. You know that this is a league that you're joining that does have several fields that have turf on it. So I think those owners would have already known this ahead of time if that was going to be an issue. And I think
Would have
the
had to
monster,
ask him. I mean, they would have had to at least ask him. Yeah.
they have to. They have to. So yeah, that to me is something that he has to have already addressed that one way or another. But again, I'm sure it's something you guys will end up asking him once he does join the team. Now, Cruz Azul is the official first game. Which is the first regular season game that he's going to play in?
The first regular season game would be on first regular season game will be on August 20th. Sunday, August 20th, a home game against Charlotte. And then Saturday, August 26th at New York Red Bulls.
So how many?
August.
So what
Because
is he?
there's a tournament in the middle. Because the
Right.
Nations League, the Nations Cup tournament is the whole month. From
I
July to August, there's no MLS. They're taking a break.
Okay, so how many games does he end up playing with the team? Like 10? 9?
He'll end up playing no, he'll end up playing uh let's see. He would end up playing if he's going to miss. So there are 16 games left right
Right.
now, okay? There are 16 games left. He's going to miss the games of he's going to miss 1, 2, 3. I think he's going to miss, or is that US Open Cup? I think he's only going to miss 2 or 3 games. So he will play
15
out of
games?
16, I guess he'll play 13.
13 games.
13
Okay.
regular season games.
Wow. Okay. Man.
And they need 30 points. They need 30 plus. The math is they're going to need 30 plus points between now and the end of the season. Over
gotta,
16 games, 30
like,
plus
they've got
points.
to go on a crazy winning streak. I mean, it's the only way.
They've got to win these next two. They have 2 games this weekend. They have Saturday and then they have Tuesday, both at home. This Saturday they have Austin. Tuesday on July 4th, they have Columbus at home.
They're not winning that.
They really need to, huh?
They're not beating Columbus. They got a
Right,
shot
well,
against
they need to beat Austin.
They got a shot against Austin, but I don't know about Columbus is pretty good,
But they're
right?
still not going to, by the way, just so you know, Gold Cup is still going on. So they still will not have Yedlin and they still won't have Kamal. Those two are playing in Gold Cup. So from now until the end of Gold Cup, they're not going to have Yedlin and they're not going to have Kamal in the back. And Christoph, I don't know right now what the situation is with his visa. Hopefully if he can get back, that's one more starter. By the way,
By the
We
way, does
forgot
he
to
know
mention.
does he
Let's
know that
pile on some more news.
wait a minute,
Negri,
does he know there's MasterCard and American Express? Does he have to use Visa? All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
huh?
No,
Negri got injured, by the way.
I
Franco
know.
Negri, who's actually been one of the better players on the team, he got injured in the game the other night. It looked pretty serious. It's a knee injury. He
Yeah.
was having MRIs. I don't know the results yet of the MRI. It is possible that it will be yet another injury to a starter, which means that would be another starter out from the back, which means, for these games this weekend, I mean, based on how he looked Saturday night, it's hard to imagine that he'll be ready for this Saturday to play a game, in which case they'd be missing Negri, Kamal Miller, and Yedlin from the back line, all three against Austin.
And by the way,
No,
Columbus
it's
has
bad.
31 points to our 15. There's no way we'd be.
Yeah.
I mean, at least with I know Austin's not that good, so maybe, but again, God, they're at such a disadvantage right now.
It's really
It is.
tough. There's a big disadvantage. It's a deep hole. It is a deep, deep hole. And Messi is supposed to be the Messiah. I mean, Messi is supposed to come in and just save this team, save this franchise, spread MLS around the world. It's a huge responsibility that he's
Yeah,
taking on. It's a huge
what's
responsibility.
gonna happen,
It is.
right? You know what's gonna happen. We're gonna have you and I don't count, okay? Because the hardcore, those fans that are in the stands, the supporters, those people are smart. We're going to understand the situation, but the general fans going to say, "Oh, they got Messi and they couldn't even make the playoffs." Well, yeah, that guy really makes a difference. They suck, this, that, and then there's no context going to be added to it, and so for a lot of people, they're going to look at it and it's gonna look like a disaster for the
Yeah.
team, the league, all of that. Okay, so you brought the most important player in the world and you put him on one of the worst teams in the world. How does that make any sense? That kind of stuff. So I'm going to feel bad for Inter Miami in that sense and I'm going to feel bad for Messi because there's going to be a lot of people that aren't really going to look at this for what it is. This is a really tough situation that they're putting Messi in. I think it's nearly an impossible situation to even get into the playoffs, to be quite honest.
But if they do,
Yeah.
what a story. And if they do, there will be fans all over the world. Millions of fans will be tuning in on Apple to watch Inter Miami in the playoffs. I mean, it's a gamble. It's a gamble. But if they win, they also have US Open Cup. By the way, there's only 2 games left. And he apparently has been putting a big emphasis. He wants to win the first. He would like to come in and like his first 2 games, like win a cup, win the US Open Cup with Inter Miami. And that, so I don't know. I mean, it's a tall task. It's a tall task, but it's going to be him. It's going to be Busquets. There may be 2 others or so. So maybe they're going to have 4 new players, maybe in the starting lineup. But they still have the injuries to the other guys. You still have, even if it's 4, 7 of the guys are the guys that you still have from this roster.
Right.
So they're going to have to, and obviously, yes, when you have great players around you, you play better and the whole team elevates. And maybe the addition of a new coach is going to be a spark to everybody. And if that can do, or whoever can do what, I mean, if it turns around, it's a great story. If it turns around, it's a great story.
Yeah.
If they don't, it's going to be a tough one to explain, like you said, to the general public. Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Troy says, "Oh, how is Michelle's Spanish? ¿Tú practica el español?"
Sí, yo hablo español muy bien. Mis padres son cubanos. No hay problema.
Okay. I struggle with my Spanish because I'm out of practica. So yeah, I definitely struggle with my Spanish. I used to do Spanish sports talk, like 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when you cover soccer, a lot of the interviews are in Spanish.
Right.
I mean, with this team, if you're talking to Stefanelli, it's in Spanish. If you're talking to Negri, it's in Spanish. You're talking to Campana, it's in Spanish. Pizarro is in
Messi
Spanish. I mean, we're talking about
Messi.
Yeah, but I'm talking about even the players that are there now.
Yeah.
Busquets will be in, all these guys, all the interviews are in Spanish. The reporters who struggle more are the ones who don't speak Spanish.
Right.
Most of the interviews are exclusively in Spanish, and then there's a few English questions and they have a translator. So you're much better off if you speak Spanish. And now with this new group that's coming in, I think it's going to be even more Hispanic influence.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know if I ran a paper, I wouldn't put a baseball beat person if they weren't bilingual. You know what I mean? And soccer, I would want my reporter to be bilingual also, because if not, you're at a disadvantage if you're not bilingual.
You have to be a real grinder. I mean, our guy Jordan McPherson does not speak Spanish, but I mean he works his tail off. He works his tail off, and he makes up for it with just sheer willpower and work ethic. But it's hard when you don't speak Spanish. Even if you don't hear, like, if there's chatter in the clubhouse and you don't know what they're saying, you know what I mean? Like you can't always have a translator. Hey, what did they say? What are they saying? What did they say? Right. So he does a really good job of overcoming the language barrier, but it's much easier when you do speak the language. Yes.
I remember when we added Levon for like a week or two, I had to translate. I was on the beat, and then they brought in, because Colangelo was our head guy, if you remember.
Right. Yeah.
And then they brought in this Hispanic guy so he could then do it, because for like a week and a half, it was like, hey, what's Levon saying? And I would have to like kind of translate for guys because they didn't speak Spanish, so they, whether it was or any of the guys that were there, like, what would he say, And then they I forgot the guy's name, but they specifically brought in a PR guy that had to be bilingual because they didn't have one at that moment. And then all of a sudden with Levon, things got a little hairy there because Levon became the biggest thing, with the whole welcome, I love Miami and all that stuff. And so he was
right. Was it John Eric? Did John Eric come in that early? John Eric Alvarez, or was that later? Because I know he does a lot of the Spanish translation.
No, I think that was late. It was an older guy. He was a little older than I was. I was
okay. That wasn't John Eric. Yeah.
No. If I remember the guy, if you say the guy's name, I'll remember. But he was here for a short time. He wasn't here very long, So Ron Colangelo, by the way, good dude. Where is he? Is he in
I have no idea.
Or he's somewhere? I forgot where he's at. But anyway. All right. So what do you got going on in the Herald? I can check you out.
Oh, well, I'm covering the Gold Cup right now, today and tomorrow. Cuba's playing tonight. Tonight is Costa Rica against Panama is the game that I'm covering. And then there's a game, El Salvador against Martinique, that our intern is going to cover right before at 6:30. I'm covering the 8:30 game. And then tomorrow, Cuba against Guatemala. Tomorrow night at Tri-Ping Stadium. So I'm covering Gold Cup today and tomorrow. I am also on the coach search watch. So be on alert for that over the next few days. And also other Messi friends who may be joining. I'm on the Messi friend watch. What?
We got lucky the other night. We had a lot of chances and we could not convert until it was the 87th minute or something. And we finally got one, man. Because damn, we had a lot of chances.
Yeah, you're talking about the US against Jamaica. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, So I've got Gold Cup and then InterMiami coach search and InterMiami, which other Messi friends will be joining.
There you go.
A lot going on.
Thank you, Michelle. As always, you are awesome. Follow her on Twitter at Kauf Sports and catch her work there at the Miami Herald. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you. There you go. The great Michelle Kaufman. We love her.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.